Well, good afternoon once again, folks. I want to talk to you today about something which is actually just kind of irritating me to death right now. And it's a simple matter. Right now I'm living in the area of Penticton. Actually, that's where the van is, and that's where our contracts that we are looking at taking are. So we are in Penticton. Not the first time. We generally have wintered here the last 4 seasons when we were finished with our other work. We grabbed a motel room and stayed here until it was time for us to find a new contract during the spring. But this time, of course, I'm actually looking for something more permanent, and just for the last 5 years of my working life, I'm a little bit tired of driving all over BC and Alberta, helping resorts get fixed and helping hotels figure out what's wrong with them and all the stuff that I can only talk about remotely because of the non-disclosures which are part of our agreements. But I'm getting very frustrated, and I can see across Canada this level of frustration, and I coming from other groups, including Caucasians and Chinese and European immigrants and all of the rest, about the level and encounterably of East Indian immigration into Canada. Now, I'm very curious about several things about this, because one, I live in Penticton, as I was just saying right now. 98% of the population is Caucasian. When back in the 80s, when we were making provincial and federal law in and about discrimination in the workplaces, I was 100% behind what the post and the push was, which was to have equal representation in workplaces. It made perfect sense to me. So if you had a population that was 90% Caucasian and 10% Chinese or whatever, that you would have that 10% of that workforce in any given operation be Chinese or whatever combination thereof. But in a city like Penticton, which is 98% Caucasian, I cannot go to, 1, a Tim Hortons, 2, a gas station, 3, I guess a pizza parlor, except for one, that is not operated solely by East Indians. And not just any group of East Indians. It is the other part of the equation. I'm trying to figure out how many, like for instance, in 2023 we had 189,780 Canadian Indians come over and become get landed immigrant status or refugee status in Canada. Yet, of those, at least 98% of them are Sikhs. You would think that by population, the Sikhs being a minority in India, that we would see more Hindus, more Christians, more followers of Islam, more complete kind of equal kind of immigration, but that's not what's happening. Now I go into all these places and it's weird. So I want to tell you a story about what happened to me this past weekend. Because we were looking for something full-time now and in a combination that we can stay at for the next 5 years until I retire, I applied for a role at this place called, I don't know if I can say it. You know what? I'm going to say it because I posted their ratings online. Alpine Motel, which is in Hope, British Columbia. They are looking for a new manager. Which is fine. So I did apply for it because I'm way overqualified, but that's okay. I also had 5 people that I had trained in the programs for natives who were getting into hospitality also apply. Now, that ad, the first ad was about 5 or 6 weeks ago. None of us ever heard back, even though everybody in that group was qualified. Then the ad popped up again in my feed, so I opened it again and found out that they're now doing a Canadian labour market survey because they said they couldn't find anybody in Canada to do this. Now, obviously, that's 100% a lie. It's not the first time I've encountered this particular lie coming from East Indians. They do it all the time. In fact, there was a point where I had a little store running out in Abbotsford, and the guy beside me on the other bench, he was a clock fixer, fixed watches, etc., etc. Now that's a highly skilled thing. I mean, it's great that he could do that. But he came over and asked me to help forge a letter saying that there is a need to help employ this family member from India. Now, I didn't do it. But the fact is, he offered me cash to do it, and I see it all the time. It's getting very strange in this world, and in Canada particularly. Now, Alpine doesn't deserve to be somebody over from India. First, if you bring somebody over from India, he had better have experience in managing a 4-star hotel in India or a 5-star, because that's the equivalent of the stupid little strip motel in Hope. The truth is, they're not equivalent. There is no equivalency to bringing somebody from India for hotels into Canada. We have totally different systems, we have totally different rules, totally different laws, totally different legislation, totally different suppliers and vendors, and to be honest, guests have a totally different expectation, particularly of housekeeping. So I did actually get back to on the survey and say, no, this guy, they don't qualify. There's literally hundreds of people that I know that could fill that role very successfully. Now, the other weird thing that I'm encountering is, as I know, I'm looking for work, and they're just getting more and more annoyed as the days go by. Even though I'm extremely on the left, and I believe that we need immigration in Canada, I do not believe that we need this excessive amount of India immigration. Unless, of course, we're also bringing in a little bit more of the Hindus, a little bit more of the Christians, a little bit more of followers of Islam. Sikhs should be somewhere in the minority zone, because they are the minority of that particular religious group in India. The ones that are all over here are all sending money back to fight for Khalistan, independent homeland for the Sikhs, and they think nothing of it. Whereas, of course, we've labeled that particular push and organization in Canada a terrorist activity, as India has, and I'm proud to support India in that matter, because they can be extremely violent back in India. Bombings in Canada particularly even. I mean, don't forget the Air Lockheed matter, blowing up an airliner over Scotland that started in Canada. That was a Sikh terrorist in Canada. Now, I'm finding also this interesting tidbit. As I begin to apply, almost, I'm going to say exclusively so far, in the hundreds of applications that have gone out, the people who've contacted me back from HR, the HR who send out the letters and occasionally get back to me to talk to me personally, are all East Indian. And I'm not sure how that happened. There are literally thousands of qualified HR people in Canada that are looking for work, yet somehow, of the 100 or so people who have written me letters back and everything, I'd say 97% of them were East Indian. Where's the fairness in that? The other strange thing I encountered, and this was a minor annoyance. Sorry, my meds are making me very thirsty today. Is down in Abbotsford and Chilliwack and those places down in that zone in BC publish a South Asian phone directory that only has, and they say South Asian, but in that directory there are only East Indian businesses. So they market it and they give it to all the other East Indian businesses, so they are not participating in the rest of the economy of Canada. They are participating only with each other. Now, if I were to do that, I would be hauled in front of the Human Rights Commission so fast that you wouldn't even be able to see me. I'm beginning to find it distressing, particularly as a member of the LGBTQ plus community, in that we have an issue which affects all of us. And the issue has been caused by excessive immigration and extremely lax rules, and following those rules when we commit to having somebody come into the nation. I know there has been a slight increase in pressure to make sure that these labor market things are honest and correct, but the truth is there's still cheating. And I've seen it because I know they paid me to try and help them, and I won't do it. I didn't do it in any of the resorts I've been working and overseeing. I haven't done it anywhere. If somebody's qualified, I will hire them, regardless of their skin color. And that's very true. I mean, you can see my hiring record in the resorts that I've been in charge of that aspect for, and you would see that I am equally fair to everybody. But I won't ever hire somebody who has absolutely no experience in the nation, or whose English is so bad they can't communicate with customers. I've actually walked out of stores here in Penticton because I can't communicate with the person behind the till, and that includes you, 7-Eleven. I just find it ridiculous, and I don't know what the solution is, but going forward we need to make sure that when there is actually a labor market need, that we are making sure that it is a true need. We need to make sure that, because the law in BC is community representation in employment, that these employers have to pay a bit more to get the actual people who are already living in Canada, who are Canadian citizens or landed immigrant status. Then they need to step up to the plate and make their workforce reflect the local culture, because that's what the law originally said. Thank you. Sorry, I just had to get that off my chest. It's been bothering me a lot lately. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.